Hey everyone, welcome back. So in the last episode, we took a look at how to create a module in Terraform, which helped us wrap our infrastructure into a reusable block. Now that's great, except we probably want to share this with someone else. Having it on a local computer only and not being able to enable others to use it is kind of pointless. So what we're going to do today is take a look at how do we take that module and host it somewhere. Now that somewhere for today will be a GitHub public repo. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and created a repo that we will be using in the demo today. And the repo is currently empty, and I'll show you now when we jump to the code. But before we get to the code, quick apology for the previous video or two. I'd realized a bit late that I was bouncing up and down on the wooden floor. So it was a little bit of a bumpy ride, literally. And I made some people seasick. So apologies for that. And hopefully this one will be a bit better. Cool. Let's jump into the console. Okay, so now we are in the console, and this is exactly where we left off last time. So this is where we had our local module, and what I've created so long is a GitHub repository over here. And you can see that this is, it's been 9 minutes since I cleaned it up, and it's brand new and empty, and I have cloned that into a directory here for us called TF module example. Now, the first thing we want to do is, well, move the code into that repository. So let's go ahead and select our module that we used previously, and we drop it inside this module folder. So this is great. Now we can share our code. But for others to be able to use our code, we probably need to give them some kind of, hint or instruction what to do. So let's go ahead and add a readme file, because that's the expectation that people have in terms of where they can find documentation. So let's quickly create one, and we call it readme.md, as you would normally do. And we open up the file quickly. So let's go ahead and just give some instructions about what this module is. So my awesome module, Terraform module. And then just what does this do? This solves all your infrastructure needs. And just disclaimer, because some people take things literally, just kidding, this is just an example. Cool, now we've got that. Right. Now, this tells someone what this module does. It doesn't tell them how to actually use it. So let's add a little section for usage. And to do that, we go ahead and say usage like this. And we're going to be providing some code examples. So let's use the triple tilde to actually create a coding block inside our markdown folder. So now, how do we go about using it? Well, if I go look at our code over here, what we can see is this references the local relative path using this // module. So that's the part that we need to change to be able to use a module from GitHub. So to do that, what you do is you grab the URL. So let me just go ahead and paste that in. And you want it without the prefix. So if you just specify it in this format, which is the normal HTTP type checkout format, Terraform will actually check it out as is using the normal public HTTPS checkout mechanism. If you do, however, want to use the Git mechanism with a git at syntax, or which is over SSH, or make use of a private repo to store your modules, you can do so. Just put it in that format, like you would normally get off the GitHub repo. So you can just click over here, git, code, and then you can see this is the format and the syntax to use for those private modules. But we're just going to use the public one. This is actually on my GitHub repo, so feel free to go poke around and have a look. So now we've got our module, and this is where it's going to pull it from. But guess what? Our source is not there yet. But before we publish it there, we need to do a little bit more cleanup. Because we want to give people instructions in terms of how to use it. So let's go back to our README over here, and we paste this in. And over here, someone might not be familiar with what an EC2 instance is or what the instance types are. So what we can say over here is let's give them a useful example. So for example, let's say t3.micro as a usable one. The instance name is, let's just call it my instance. And close the bracket, the quotes, and number of instances, we probably want one of these. And in terms of the AMI, now this is something where you can either try and hard code something or add in a value, but there are a couple of different ways where this can break for people. So what I prefer to do is to make sure that this will give them an error. So let's go ahead and say your MID to use to launch the instance, because this, when they just copy and paste this into the code, they'll realize that, hey, listen, we made a mistake and we need to go fix it. There'll be a prompt of some kind instead of just launching something that they didn't necessarily intend. Cool. So now documentation here is done. So let's go and clean up our variables and outputs a little bit, because while this is useful to show what I'm entering here to get the module going, it doesn't really explain what these variables are. So let's go add some descriptions to them. So all you do over here is you say description, like this, and you give them a description. So this is the AWS EC2 instance type size to use. And what we do now is we add similar descriptions for the rest. Cool. Now we have got all of our descriptions in here, and it's actually nicely lined up and formatted. But let's say I did have a mistake, and this is well, not a mistake, just a misformatted document, because previously I actually came along and ran this command. But Terraform has got this FMT command that stands for format built in. So I can just go. Sorry, let me just get to that directory. Terraform format. And this will actually go ahead and format the code in the way that they define and think your code should look like. Terraform is built in Go, and Go has got an opinionated way to format your code. And my recommendation here is just stick to it. You don't want to go into formatting wars and fight with people. Just say this is it and build it into your build system. Speaking of building it into your build system, there will be a video in the next week or two on how to wrap all of this multi-environment Terraform usage inside a makefile. So stick around for that and hit the subscribe button if you want to know when that video is coming out. So now what we have is we have cleaned up our variables. Now we can do the same for our outputs. Just let people know what it is. So similarly, we just say description, like that, description, and give it a value. Once again, the AWS ID of the EC2, instance we created. Cool, that should help. Once again, I'll just quickly run format so I don't have to worry about my code being ugly. Cool, now we've got everything. So let's go ahead and say get status to see what we have. So we've got our readme, we've got our files that we updated. So let's go ahead and say git add, git commit, new module, and we go ahead and say git push this code. Let me just quickly add my passphrase. So now what we can see in the GitHub repo over here in a second is that we now have got our readme over here. I can see how to use the module. So let's go ahead and copy this. And then I can go back to my code over here, which is examples over here. So let's go ahead and paste this in. Now, I'm expecting a couple of things to go wrong here. So let's quickly work through that. First one is we want to run that Terraform, let's do this plan. We want to run Terraform plan. Now, for those that are watching, there's one mistake already, which is, wrong directory. There is something wrong with this AMI ID. And if we look at it, oh yeah, we forgot to actually add it in here. So how we do that is we can quickly go up here and just go ahead and grab the one that we previously used, which is data.awsami.cloudquibus. Because remember, this is how you use data sources to actually do lookups for you. So let's go ahead and grab that, cut it out, and then we paste it in here. So when I look at my module, things should be working now, right? No, we're going to run into another issue. So let's go ahead and just run the plan command again, and I'll show you what that is. And that issue is that, oh, it doesn't know about this module. How do we go about fixing that? Well, Terraform init. So Terraform init will go ahead and go pull the modules. You could also use Terraform get, and we're actually going to use Terraform get in a second to actually make use of it. So now we've got all of this configured over here. So let's go ahead and say plan. Now everything should work, right? Not so fast. We're going to have an issue once again. It was actually happy. The reason it's happy is that it's we actually provided it with all the variables. Now, the thing that we see here, if we once again look at it closely, is that we specify the number of instances. And if we go to our actual module code, that's not being used here. So clearly that's a mistake that we left over from last time. So you know what? We're good Boy Scouts. We are going to go clean up the code and leave it better than we found it. So let's do that. And to do that, we simply need to remove that variable. So let's go ahead into our module. We can see over here, number of instances. That's definitely the one we want to remove. So save it. Let's go back to our repo. We say git add, git status, just to double check. Yep, it's that one. Git commit, cleaning up, removing instance count variable. Right. And we push this. And we go ahead and passphrase again. and now that's been pushed. Cool, so our module is updated, right? And if we go look at our actual source code over here in examples, now we just remove this and we should be good to go, right? Well, not so quickly again. Let's take a look at what's going to happen. Plan. When we run plan now, it's going to give us an issue, which is it wants that variable. Now, this is kind of weird because didn't we just fix our module? And we did, except Terraform keeps a cached version of the module locally. Now, to be able to force Terraform to grab the latest, we need to go Terraform get and then update like that. And what this will do is it'll tell Terraform to go grab the latest copy of all the modules that it knows about. So now if I go and say Terraform plan, guess what? Everything will work and it'll be able to tell us what infrastructure it wants to create, like we did last time. And now we can go ahead and actually use it. Now, once again, this is super useful and this pushed us in the right direction. But there's still this issue of what happens when I change my version or change the code inside my module. Do people get notified about it? How do they pick what version do they want from history, etc. So what I'll do is, in the next episode, I'm going to take you through how to add versioning to this and also show you how you can actually publish your module on Terraform Cloud. Which is a service by HashiCorp that allows you to publicly share modules as well. As you can see the tab over here, I've set that up already and I will be publishing that in the next video. So like I said, we're going to be showing you in the next video how to use version numbers inside your modules, how to pin those versions specifically so you don't accidentally upgrade your infrastructure without checking what the changes are. And speaking of changes, I'm also going to show you how to add a changelog markdown file to document exactly what the changes are per version. And I'll be basing this on the documentation that you get when you look at the Terraform providers and in general Terraform modules. They are super useful and very detailed, and it's one of the things that really drew me to Terraform years ago, is the level of detail inside these documents. You can scan them and immediately know, is this a bug, is this some kind of fix, or is this a new feature? So we'll be doing that. And if you want to get notified about that, hit the subscribe button down below and also hit that little bell icon. That's, I believe, what lets you know when the actual new video comes out. And then lastly, if you could hit the like button, that helps other people find this. So thanks for that. Okay, with that, we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.